Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Monday, April 18th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown, so if you're someone that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used to help make good decisions as a trader, this will be a video for you. And one quick reminder there, the markets are closed on Friday, so if you are watching this Thursday when I first release it, then yes, the markets are closed on Friday for Good Friday, so nothing happens again until Monday. Before I get to the watch list, I first want to personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online class that I'm offering next week. So if you're watching this and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to build consistency as a trader, then certainly get signed up for the free class. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description box. If you're watching at my site, there's an area right there on the webpage that you can click to get signed up. So again, if you like what you see, then certainly get signed up for the free class. Couple of quick clarification points here. First off, this number over here will still be changing. The markets are open for a little bit of time. The candlesticks will still be moving around a little bit, but I like to do these videos when the market's still open because sometimes we can capture some really interesting late day type price movement. However, the market is almost done, so the levels that I talk about can still be completely relevant on Monday. And then also I'll be using the 30-minute time frame. So if you're a beginner, what that means is that each one of these candlesticks, as they're called, represents 30 minutes worth of time. So stock number one here, Twitter, TWTR, wants to get in the headlines with all the Elon Musk news. But just to summarize today's movement, in trading jargon, this would be known as a gap and trap, meaning the price closed here on Wednesday and then opened up here and then with the gap up. And then after that, I mean, true story, some poor souls were buying up there. But then after that, just bled and bled and bled the rest of the day, and down it went, which now brings about a very key level. So actually, let me take a step back. So from resistance-wise, this level up here that I mapped out, several days ago, I didn't hit it exactly, but good example of the power of charts. Got right up around that overall area of resistance, and then got rejected back down. But given how far the price is pulled back, this area is not actually that relevant anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and just adjust this level down here to now 47, because in my mind, that's going to be the most relevant area of resistance in the near term. And then the level of support that I think everybody's brother, uncle is going to be watching for a couple different reasons. Right here at $44.50. Why do I say that? Well, two reasons. First off, it's just simply this green line here, this area of support. You can see that the price has been down there several times and has bounced. And then now just based on, the timing of things, that pink line there, the 200 period moving average, keyword being moving, but that line has now quote unquote moved itself to be right in that same vicinity right there. So you better believe that there's going to be all sorts of people. The longs are going to be saying, I think this thing could potentially bounce. And that's valid. The shorts are going to be saying, I think if this thing fails, that could really create that much more downside pressure. Again, that's also a valid thought process to have. So both thought processes are valid, and that's why risk management matters, because somebody's going to be right, somebody's going to be wrong. But the point here that I'm trying to drive home is that this is going to be a highly anticipated level. And again, the idea of a watch list is to find interesting locations, to find unique situations, and then watch them and see what happens. So yeah, this is why I would put Twitter on the watch list, because it's all about that general area right there. So let's see if it bounces or if the bears are going to be able to press down through. Next one, VERU, and overall a very wild day. I had a great 30-minute session right there where the price really, came to life. And then after that, very disappointing, sank backwards. But what makes this interesting going into next week is when it sank back downwards, it didn't keep sinking. It didn't keep sinking, nothing like that. It finally did at least level off and go sideways, which brings about now the valid question of, okay, is this just a little, rounding out consolidation before another move to the upside? Now, of course, there are no guarantees, so I'm not saying that's for sure going to happen. But my point here is because the price has at least started to go sideways, is it valid? Is it rational to at least be able to ask that question? Yeah, that's absolutely a logical thought process to have. And that's our whole job as traders, is just to not make random decisions, to gamble. We want to make logical choices. Again, no such thing as a guaranteed choice, but a logical choice. In my mind, this rounding out late day to day creates, a very interesting scenario. So in my mind, the key level of resistance to watch in the near term, if there is going to be any sort of continued bounce back to the upside, going to be right there around $15.25. If the price does pull back some more, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that, because the main area of support to watch at that point is going to be all about that purple line there, the 50-period moving average. But yeah, definitely an interesting setup. Overall trend, still plenty bullish, but let's see if there is another sign of life, that can get the price to push up through there. Next one here, AMC, overall a healthy day. Now, I realize that maybe that's a matter of perspective. If you're a day trader and you bought right there and your plan was to buy and sell within 10 minutes, well, then yeah, from that point of view, you'd probably disagree with that statement. But from the bigger picture point of view, and this will mean a bit more of those of you that watched the previous video, the price made a very nice bounce on Wednesday. So what was good today is the price just didn't roll itself back over and go, back to where it was. No, now the price didn't explode, But again, at least the price just maintained those gains and is now working on trying to build a higher base. And that's the name of the game. You want to have higher bases because higher bases over time ultimately turn into uptrends. And assuming you're bullish, that's what you want to see. So yes, today, by no means was it some exciting day or anything like that, but it was still a healthy day as it showed that it maintained those gains and is working on still continuing to build that higher base. So going into next week, that 1775 mark still remains a very important level because as long as the price is above there, that shows that a higher base is being built. Next one, BRQS, very ugly looking chart. But as I like to say, sometimes there can be opportunity in the ugly when everybody's panicking, running to the doors. That's where sometimes people step up, and that's the perfect time to get in, you know, or as the slogan goes, when there's blood in the street. So if you're somebody that likes to play those really ugly things, then right here in my mind, an interesting location down there at 18.5 cents. Now, as always, and I'll probably say this a million more times throughout the video, there are no guarantees. But is 18.5 cents some sort of random area? No, it's a former breakout point. You have a moving average right here. So while that doesn't mean that the price will for sure bounce, it does mean that you can structure yourself a good risk versus reward trade plan. Now that of course assumes that you're going to honor stop losses and you know how to, you know, structure all of that. But assuming you are a disciplined trader and you like to play penny stocks and, you know, structure yourself good risk versus reward scenarios, then this is one that I think makes a whole lot of sense down at 18.5 cents if that can be hit. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out early next week. Next one, ATER, very sloppy day. You know, yeah, they're depending on your strategy. I mean, if you're some sort of day trader scalper, then there were actually several good opportunities as there was, you know, some breakouts there of that upper trend line. But if you're somebody that, you know, looks for more so bigger type movements, then yeah, just, you know, there was a fake breakout, a nice little breakout there. But ultimately, again, assuming you wanted bigger movement and follow through, nothing there. There's another type of move. Down. So in other words, this is what we would call a very choppy day. Now, granted, it was pretty choppy across the entire market. A lot of these movements that never had any sort of fluid movements, at least from what I saw, just a lot of choppiness out there. But nonetheless, that's just how, you know, trading goes sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these levels as they serve their purpose for now. But I think the new kind of key overall level that a lot of people will be watching is that trend line right there. If there is any sort of attempted bounce back to the upside. And then as far as pullbacks and support are concerned, I think this area right down here around $4.90 could become relevant next week. So we'll see what happens with it. But generally speaking, you know, and after the data that we got now today, trying to kind of filter out all the choppiness and just look at more so broad levels, in my mind, that key level up there, we'll call it right around 650. And then down here at 490 seem to be the most important levels. Next one, CRXT, which I like and goes along the same lines as the VERU one, meaning good solid momentum, and then things during this stage. So let me change up the colors here. But this stage right here, things were getting very shaky because there was a big move. Price started to fall. But now at least the price has leveled out. Once again, does that mean that this is for sure the bottom? Of course not. But does it now lead to a valid thought process of, okay, so maybe this pullback is over. Maybe this thing is getting ready to turn itself around. Yes, of course, that is not a guaranteed thought process, but a more than valid one. So I think the level that a lot of people will be watching is that pink line right there, the very famous 200 period moving average. And let's just call its value at $1.35. So again, no guarantees, but is it rational to think if the price can get up there and then push up through that level, that break could create some additional buying pressure and good momentum to the upside? Yes, I definitely think that is a more than plausible thought process to have. If you do like to play pullbacks, then the level that I think a lot of pullback players will be watching right down there around that $1.05 mark. So let's see what happens with it. Next one, MDVL, came to life later or several days ago. And then you can see over the past couple of days, I mean, volume just went to sleep. But then volume today, I mean, not massive, but given the context of things, again, with the markets being closed tomorrow, you know, definitely had a respectable day. But what I like most about it is I think there's going to be a whole bunch of people around the world that have drawn that line right there at $2.60, which generally speaking has now rejected the price twice. So it goes back to the whole idea of, you know, potential self-fulfilling prophecy, where if the price can get up there and break up through it, then you got to think a whole lot of breakout players are watching that level and saying, oh, look, it's breaking. Hey, I'm a breakout player. Oh, I should be buying right now. And if you get enough of that, once again, you can get momentum just through those self-fulfilling type prophecies. So keep an eye on that as a potential breakout area. As far as supports are concerned, a couple areas you know, stand out, that 50 period moving average right there. And then if you want to get just extra greedy and require, you know, much larger pullback, then potentially that the pink line down there, the 200 period moving average valued at $1.30. So those would be the main areas of support. But in my opinion, at least, the most interesting thing is whether or not the price can get up there and push up through the $2.60 mark for a breakout. Next one, IMPP, and this one is going on the watch list for very simple reasoning. First off, this one does have quite a bit of a track record of making some very nice moves, so that's reason number one. And then reason number two is, hey, it started to show some signs of life. Good solid volume, nice price movement, which brings about the more than valid question of, is this the start of something much bigger? As I've said in past videos, think about that question. In order for me to be able to even ask that question, something needs to first happen in the first place. In many situations, nothing ever happens. There is no something, and therefore this question can't even be asked. But in this situation, something did happen, right? Big volume, nice price movement. So is this the start of something bigger? It's worth at least watching, which again is the whole idea of a watch list. To be fair, maybe it's not. Maybe this thing just collapses, goes right back to where it started. But that is a two-sided coin because, well, maybe it is. Maybe this thing is just going to keep on ripping and roaring next week. So it's worth at least keeping an eye on, which again, because this does have a track record of making some really nice movements. Just because there's a track record doesn't mean that it'll for sure happen again, but it does give a little bit more credibility to the fact that, okay, yeah, this thing has done it before. So, hey, let's see if it can do it again. Next one, PLTR. Haven't done this one in a while. I know it still remains a pretty popular stock, but in my mind, the level here that everybody is watching. So going back to, I have no special skill here, not trying to impress you, but it is, one of those kind of self-fulfilling prophecy type points. But I assure you, a bunch of people have drawn that trend line as support, and you're going to have longs and shorts and everybody in between watching that area, which now seems very likely to at least get tested. But once again, what to watch for? Well, let's see how the price behaves at that area. You're going to have longs, and like I said earlier on a previous stock, rightfully so, longs thinking, well, I think this thing could bounce. I mean, it's bounced there and there. A more than valid thought process. You're also going to have the shorts and the bears and those that like to play puts saying, no, I think if it gets down there and breaks, then that could really create some downwards pressure. Again, that is a plausible thought process to have, which is why risk management matters. Somebody's going to be right, somebody's going to be wrong. But the overarching dynamic here is that is a trend line that people around the world, as far as technical traders are concerned, have drawn and will be watching. So let's see how the price behaves if it can get down to that area. If the price just does bounce right back upwards, then in the near term, that key level of resistance is going to be right there, that purple line there at $12.70. But yeah, and again, in my mind, the most interesting dynamic here is let's see if this trend line gets tested, and if so, how will the price behave? Next one, TSLA Tesla, and I alluded to this in previous videos, but I thought, it's looking like there's a good chance that we just have ourselves a good old-fashioned sideways channel, and we definitely got confirmation of that as the price ended Wednesday, knocking on the door of the upwards channel, but today you can see has been rejected back down. And while it hasn't gone all the way down to the bottom of the channel, it is very close, which segues into the level that I think a whole lot of people will be watching, and that's down here at that 975 mark. More so in the near-term area, and this is one that I'll be curious about myself, is right here at 982, meaning if 982 fails, no guarantees, but is it valid? Is it rational to think that a break of 982 sends this down to at least 975? I think that is a more than plausible, reasonable thought process to have. So keep an eye on that dynamic. But yeah, this is certainly going to be a very interesting support zone. Meaning what actually happens here, not quite sure. I could see it going down to 975 and bouncing once again. I could also see it completely collapsing. But once again, that's what I'll be watching, because I'm not sure, but that doesn't mean that I won't ultimately be able to put a trade plan together around that. That's just the area and dynamic that I've identified that I will want to watch next week. As far as areas of resistance, yes, you have the top of the channel up here at 1025, but in more so the near term, that first key area of resistance seems to be there right around that 998 mark. So you almost have it's kind of like an onion. You have the inner layer, which within a much bigger layer of onion. So a miniature channel within a much larger channel. That wraps up the top 10. Again, if you like what you saw here and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to build consistency as a trader, then certainly get signed up for that free class next week. Again, it'll be Thursday of next week, April 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and hopefully I'll see you there. As far as these top 10 videos are concerned, if you enjoy this format, if you would like for me to continue to put in the time and effort to create this sort of content, then please help me out with some basic feedback. Hit the like button, leave a simple comment, say hi, tell me a ticker symbol that you're watching tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, because I guess the markets are closed, but tell me a ticker symbol that you traded today. But those two things, hitting the like button and then leaving a basic comment, communicate to me that you enjoy. And like I said, as long as I know people are enjoying, I'll continue to put in the time and effort required to create this sort of content. So once more, friendly reminder, the markets are closed on Friday for a Good Friday. So on that note, I wish you all a happy Easter. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you back on Monday.